There is an alligator lying in the water a few feet from the rail, and nobody is running. That is the first strange thing about this place. The second is the bird beside it, black and dripping, holding its wings open to the sun like a coat hung out to dry. This is the Anhinga Trail in January in the dry season. Less than a mile of pavement and boardwalk, and quite possibly the densest concentration of wild animals you can walk up to anywhere in North America. We are at Royal Palm, 4 miles inside the eastern entrance of Everglades National Park, at the southern tip of the Florida Peninsula. Behind us is homestead and the farm country. Ahead of us, unbroken to the horizon, is Sawgrass. The trail loops out over a shallow channel called Taylor Slough, one of the veins that carries fresh water south toward Florida Bay. Everything you are about to see happens because of where that water is and where it is not. The first thing to unlearn is the word swamp. A swamp is still. This is not still. The Everglades is a river, roughly 100 miles long and as much as 60 miles wide, flowing so slowly that you cannot see it move. In 1947, the writer Marjorie Stoneman Douglas gave it the name that finally made people understand it. She called it the River of Grass. Once you have that phrase, the whole landscape reorganizes itself in front of you. The gradient here is almost nothing. Across that enormous plain, the land falls away so gently that the water creeps forward at only about 2 feet a minute. Not a channel, not a current you could paddle against. A sheet, inches deep in places, sliding south across a floor of limestone for months on end. It is a river you can stand in. It is a river you would never notice was a river unless somebody told you to look at the grass. Under everything is stone. The bedrock of South Florida is limestone, laid down when this whole peninsula lay beneath a warm, shallow sea, built up between roughly 25 million and 2 million years ago out of the bodies of marine creatures. Rain is faintly acidic, and over long time it eats at that stone, dissolving pits and hollows and channels. Those solution holes matter enormously to this story. Hold on to them. We are going to come back to a hole in the rock. The plant that fills the frame is sawgrass, and it is not a grass at all. It is a sedge, Cladium jamescens, and it covers something close to 2/3 of the freshwater marsh that remains. Run a finger the wrong way along a blade and you will understand the name. The edges carry fine, hard teeth. It grows chest-high here, taller in the north. For most of human history, this was the reason nobody crossed the Everglades on foot. Look down into the shallows and you will see something that looks like wet gray-green wool floating in the water. That is periphyton, a living mat of algae and bacteria. It is unglamorous, and it is the base of everything. It feeds the insects and the tiny fish. It pulls calcium out of the water and lays down the pale mud called marl that sawgrass roots into. Every alligator on this trail is standing, in the end, on a foundation made of algae. Down here there is no spring and no autumn. There is wet and there is dry. The rains come roughly from May to November, 60 inches or so a year, and the sheet of water spreads out and covers the plain. Then around December the rain stops. The water begins to withdraw. By January it is going, and by April it is largely gone. The Everglades is not a place with weather. It is a place with a tide that takes 6 months to turn. A slough is simply a low place, a channel where the limestone dips and the water runs a little deeper and lingers a little longer. Taylor Slough is one of them, and this trail is built out across it. In the wet season, it would be unremarkable, one wet place among a million wet places. In the dry season, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes one of the last addresses in the neighborhood where there is still water. This is the whole secret of the Anhinga Trail, and it is worth saying plainly. The animals are not here because the trail is here. They are here because the water is here. As the marsh dries, everything that needs water is squeezed inward, and the fish and the frogs and the crayfish crowd into the shrinking pools at densities they never reach in the wet season. And where the prey concentrates, the predators arrive. We have simply built a walkway over the dinner table. The alligator does not just wait for that to happen. It makes it happen. Using its snout and its tail and its sheer bulk, a large alligator will wallow out one of those hollows in the limestone, clearing the muck and the vegetation, deepening it year after year. That is a gator hole. When the surrounding marsh goes dry, the gator hole is still holding water. The alligator has, quite literally, dug the well that the rest of the ecosystem drinks from. Biologists call the American alligator a keystone species, and this is why. Pull it out of the arch and the arch comes down. Its holes are the dry season refuge for fish and turtles and frogs and snails. Herons and egrets and wood storks gather at the edges to feed on what is trapped inside. The wood stork in particular times its whole breeding effort to those shrinking pools. An animal we spent a century trying to exterminate turns out to be the landlord. So look at the animal in front of us properly. Armored back, eyes and nostrils set high so it can lie almost entirely submerged and still see and breathe. It is cold-blooded, which is why it lies out in the January sun like this, doing apparently nothing, banking heat. It is not sluggish. It is solar-powered. And on a warm afternoon in the dry season, a lot of what looks like laziness is an animal that has already eaten. It was very nearly not here at all. For decades, alligators were shot in enormous numbers for their hides, and drained and hunted habitat did the rest. In 1967, the American alligator was formally listed as endangered under the law that preceded the Endangered Species Act, judged to be in danger of extinction across its range. Think about that when you stand at this rail. The animal that everyone photographs at the Everglades was, within living memory, disappearing. And then it came back. Federal and state protection shut down the trade, the hunting stopped, and the population recovered so completely that in 1987, the Fish and Wildlife Service took the American alligator off the endangered species list. It is one of the cleanest conservation success stories the country has. It took roughly 20 years. Not a captive breeding miracle, not a technological rescue. Just leaving an animal alone in habitat that still worked and letting it get on with it. Now the other animal. The bird the trail is named for is standing on the rail with its wings held open, and it will hold that pose for a long time. Long neck, long dagger of a bill, black body, silver flashes across the wing. The male is glossy black. The female wears a pale buff neck and breast. It looks like an ornament. It is, in fact, a very specialized underwater hunter in the middle of a repair job. Watch one swim and the nickname explains itself. The body sinks below the surface until only that thin, dark neck is showing, curving above the water, and what you are looking at appears for all the world to be a snake. People call it the snakebird and the water turkey. The name Anhinga itself comes from Tupi, a language of Brazil, and is usually translated as devil bird or snake bird. Its family are the darters, and they are found across the warm world. Here is the thing that makes this bird different from a duck. A duck floats because its feathers are waterproofed with oil and trap a layer of air. The Anhinga does not do that. Its plumage soaks through, and the oil gland that other birds rely on is at best poorly developed. Waterlogged feathers mean lost buoyancy, and lost buoyancy is exactly what it wants. It gets wet on purpose. Being wet is how it stops floating and starts sinking. So it slips under and it stalks, low and slow, through the underwater grass, and it does not scoop or grab. It spears. The neck is loaded like a crossbow and the bill goes through the fish. Then the bird has to surface, work the fish off the point, flip it and swallow it head first. And afterward it is soaked to the skin and cannot fly properly, so it climbs out, faces the sun and opens its wings. And they are not alone. The dry season pulls in the long-legged hunters too. Great blue herons standing motionless in that patient half-crouch. Great egrets, white and deliberate. Little blue herons, tricolored herons, white ibis probing the mud with a curved bill. In the wet season, they would be scattered across 1,000 square miles of shallow water. In January, they are here, because here is where the fish have nowhere left to go. Lean over the rail and look down. Long torpedo shapes hanging just under the surface, spotted, unhurried, armored with hard scales. Those are Florida gar, an old lineage of fish ambush hunters that take other fish and crayfish and shrimp. Around them, clouds of tiny mosquito fish and sunfish, and somewhere in the mud, crayfish and turtles. This crowded, visible, almost aquarium-like water is not normal for the Everglades. It is what a marsh looks like when it is being wrung dry. There is one more link worth naming. The Apple Snail is a large freshwater snail that lives in these shallow open waters, and it is the entire diet, more or less, of a bird called the snail kite. That kite is endangered, and its fortunes rise and fall with water levels because the snails do. It is the plainest possible lesson in how this system works. Get the water wrong and you do not lose water, you lose a bird. Not everything out here is dramatic. There are cormorants drying themselves in a hunched imitation of the Anhinga. There are turtles hauled out on the mud. There are small rails and gallinules stepping across the floating leaves as if the water were solid. It is worth standing still for 2 minutes and letting the layers arrive. The alligators are the headline. The real story of the Everglades is happening at ankle height, in a few inches of warm water. People have known this water far longer than the park has existed. Before Europeans arrived, southern Florida was home to the Calusa, whose power was centered on the southwest coast, and the Tequesta, who lived around Biscayne Bay and the Miami River. They built with shell and lived on fish and shellfish rather than farming. Warfare, slave raiding, and above all European disease destroyed them over the course of the 1700s, and the survivors scattered or were absorbed elsewhere. Into that emptied landscape came Creek and Miccosukee-speaking communities from the north, who became the Seminole. Pushed south through 3 wars with the United States in the 1800s, some refused removal and withdrew into the Everglades themselves, into the Cypress and the Tree Islands, precisely because it was ground no army wanted. Their descendants are here now. The Seminole tribe of Florida and the Miccosukee tribe of Indians of Florida are sovereign nations, and the northern edge of this park is Miccosukee ground. The dry ground we parked on has a name older than the park. This is Paradise Key, a hardwood hammock, a tree island rising a foot or 2 above the marsh, and that is enough to change everything that grows on it. Once it held the largest stand of native royal palms in Florida, along with orchids and ferns found almost nowhere else. By the early 1900s, a road was coming, and collectors and developers knew exactly what was here. What saved it is one of the best stories in American conservation, and almost nobody knows it. The Florida Federation of Women's Clubs, led by May Mann Jennings, campaigned for this hammock, worked the legislature, and in 1915 secured a grant of 960 acres. Mary Lily Kennon Flagler Bingham, the widow of the railroad magnate Henry Flagler, matched it, bringing the total to 1,920 acres. On the 23rd of November 1916, they dedicated it as Royal Palm State Park. It was the first state park in Florida, and the women's clubs did not simply hand it over and walk away. They ran it. They built a lodge, they employed a warden, they raised the money, and they administered this place for more than 30 years, through hurricanes and fire and chronic underfunding, with no reliable support from the state that had given them the land. Every step you take on this trail is on ground they refuse to let go. Everywhere else, the plan was the opposite. The Everglades was seen as waste to be reclaimed. In 1881, the developer Hamilton Diston bought 4 million acres of Florida for $1 million and began cutting canals. In 1904, Napoleon Bonaparte Broward campaigned for governor on a promise to drain the Everglades. And in 1907, an Everglades drainage district was created to tax the land and pay for it. Canals went south from Lake Okeechobee. The great sheet of water began to leak away. Then came the engineering that really did it. After catastrophic floods, Congress approved the Central and Southern Florida Project in 1948, and the Army Corps of Engineers built, over the following decades, something on the order of 700 miles of canals and 1,000 miles of levees. It worked on its own terms. Cities and farms got flood control and water. The river of grass got what was left over at the wrong times and in the wrong amounts. Against that tide, a landscape architect from Miami named Ernest Coe spent years arguing that this ought to be a national park, and in 1934 Congress authorized one. Then came the Depression, and the war, and the slow business of assembling land. It was not until the 6th of December 1947 that President Harry Truman finally stood in Everglades City and dedicated Everglades National Park. Royal Palm State Park was folded into it and ceased to exist as a state park. That same year, 1947, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas published The Everglades, River of Grass. She had spent 5 years on it, working with a hydrologist from the Geological Survey who understood how the water actually moved. Before her book, most people regarded this place as worthless ground waiting to be drained. Her opening argument was simply that it was a river, and rivers can be killed. She lived to be 108 and spent most of the rest of her life defending it. The park protects only a fraction of the original system, and the water still arrives on somebody else's schedule. Nesting wading birds are estimated to have fallen by something like 90% from historic numbers. On top of that came the pythons. Burmese pythons, released or escaped from the pet trade, spread through the park, and road surveys have recorded catastrophic declines in raccoons, opossums, and bobcats across the areas they occupy. This trail is a rich window onto a diminished house. The response is the largest ecosystem restoration effort ever attempted. The Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan, authorized by Congress in 2000, was meant to cost around $8 billion and take 30 years. The current estimates are far higher and far longer. The goal is disarmingly simple. Stop dumping fresh water to the sea and send it south again in the right quantity at the right time. The whole argument comes down to whether we can make the water move properly. So we walk back and the light goes gold, and the Anhinga is still standing there with its wings out, waiting for the sun to do its work. It is a very short trail. It is almost embarrassingly easy, and it may be the most honest half hour in the American National Park system because it does not stage anything. It simply puts a walkway where the water is and lets you watch what happens when the water runs out. That is what stays with us. Everything here, the alligator, the anhinga, the herons, the gar, is an answer to one question, which is where the water is this month. The dry season crowds them together and lets us see it. The alligator digs the hole that keeps the marsh alive. The bird gets wet on purpose so that it can sink. Nothing out here is wasted. Thank you for watching. Follow for more trails of the world.